Hey guys, it's Garnet Blaze, and this speed paint has been sitting on my computer for quite a few months, and, well, most of it was just, okay, so I had to re-record this audio twice before my voice gave out, and also one of my pets felt really ill not too long ago. She just recovered, thankfully. She's doing better now. She's walking and stuff, but I had to take care of her a lot and make sure she got food while she was sick. But, yeah, without much further ado, here is my speed paint. So, to start off, this speed paint was meant to be a present for my friend for her birthday, because these characters are from a story that we were starting to work on together. And right now I'm just kind of carving out the landscape. I usually like to draw my characters first, but I don't know, I just decided to plot out a nice landscape that was very pleasing to the rules of thirds and other photographical senses. Right now, I'm sketching out these wolves with wings. Yeah, the story's about wolves with wings, for some reason. You know, it doesn't have to be a very serious book to be a fun book. It can just be fun characters, and that's kind of where I was running with this. How I'd best explain this story is it's Frozen with wolves, but it's better. I promise it's better than Frozen, or at least I hope it is. In my head, it's a lot better. So these two characters are wolf sisters. The tall black wolf with the dragon wings is named Ciara. I know technically it's supposed to be pronounced Kira, but I don't care, and it's my character, and her name's Ciara, so that's kind of where we're going with that. And then the smaller brown wolf with the bird wings, she's a Rishi. Ciara is an Agir. They have different names for the different types of wings they can have. Katie is her younger sister. And so both of these wolves live in the wolf packs. Yes, I know, wolf packs, as traditionally known with the alpha, beta, omega system, are not real and completely fabricated in fiction, but you know what? Sometimes those stories are actually kind of fun, because there's this cool hierarchy thing that you can explore. And they're fantasy wolves, so they can follow completely wrong social systems and animal behavior. But if you do not know, wolves live in family groups. The best way you can experience this is by playing Wolf Quest. It's so beautiful, as long as your computer can actually run it. My old computer, before I got my gaming laptop, it hated Wolf Quest. I was playing on 16 frames per second. Not a good time. You might have seen these two characters in a little animation I did for this one anything map that I did a long time ago, where the images were super gross looking and pixelated, and maybe one day if I ever have time again to do fun for fun and finish all my big projects, maybe I'll redo that, because it looks really bad. But yeah, those characters you might have seen there, and I also have some upcoming ideas for quick little videos that feature them. So their story is basically they were born into this wolf pack, and the thing is if you're these are winged wolves, so they're different than the normal wolves, and if you're born without wings, you basically get kicked out. Sometimes you're killed, but most of the time you are taken away and dropped into the barren lands, which is where all of the wolves who don't have packs or wings reside. Not all of them are born from packs with wings. They might just be normal wolves living out in the wild, but that's just kind of how it runs, I guess. So yeah, right now I'm just kind of redoing this old MS Paint MS Paint image that I drew forever ago. Obviously, it was in the days before I had my glorious Hue art tablet, and before I had Fire Alpaca as my free art program to lean on. Dragon wings, man, I don't know how any traditional animator, deals with dragon wings. They're just so annoying because you have to make them all even in length, like every wing finger. It is the bane of my existence. And like the bird wings are so much easier to draw. I don't know. Maybe if I ever do more Wings of Fire stuff, I should just give them bird wings, even though it's inaccurate. It would be a lot less for me, or maybe I should simplify them more. But anyways, at this point, I was not really happy with that sketch. It wasn't working. I don't know, I think it was probably the weird thing with Katie's feet. It did not look right. And so I examined it. You know, you have a fresh pair of eyes, you look at your art, and you say, I need to rework this. Now, I'm not saying you should throw away everything you do. I have a lot of my old art that I keep, and I kind of look back at it with fond memories. But what I'm saying here is I kind of assessed the situation, and the problems I was seeing were to a point where a simple touch-up was not going to do it, so I resketched the whole thing. And I think I'm happier for it. I pulled up some images of real-life wolves so I could get a vaguely better idea of their anatomy. Obviously, I'm a very stylized artist, so I don't give the wolves probably their correct bulkiness. I tend to draw very lean-looking wolves. Probably more akin to what a yearling wolf would look like, but there we go. So I'm just kind of redoing this sketch and focusing on what I initially visualized for the pose and trying to tie it down to something more doable. Now that these wings are outstretched, I'm feeling a bit more confident. That's a pretty okay wing for me. And just kind of marking out the shapes. One of the things about Ciara is she has very long legs, so I tried to accomplish this as best I could. And also just make sure all of her dragon-like features, because the thing is with these wolves, while some of them might only have the wings, they also share features from the flying animal they're based off of. So a lot of the Rishi wolves who have bird features might have feathers sticking out of their ears or randomly in between their fur. They can make bird calls occasionally. And Agir, like Ciara, and the antagonist lady, Maris, have occasionally horns, slitted eyes, forked tongues, all that cool stuff. Cool dragon features and non-retractable big claws. Oh, look at this wing, it's so beautiful. You know, one day I watched this wing tutorial and everything clicked, and now I love drawing bird wings. They're so fun. They're very expressive. Alright, so yeah, I'm just kind of moving my sketches along. I decided to sketch them out in separate layers, just for some reason. I don't know, I thought it would work out better in that respect, but yeah. So these two sisters, they had a really close bond, but due to their circumstances, because Agir are very rarely born, Ciara was sent away to train with the leader of the wolf pack, Amaris. I mean, we say alpha, but I don't know, she's just kind of like the leader person. She's kind of nasty. So the sisters got separated. Now you're seeing where the Frozen connections are coming in. And so, the story basically deals with their relationship being forced away by circumstance, and there's a lot of drama on Ciara's morality as an Agir and pupil of the not-so-nice leader. She's been kind of trained in being a not good wolf, probably killed some people, and then Katie, on the other hand, is just kind of shocked at it all, and oh yeah, I don't remember, I'm pretty sure this got deconfirmed, but you can also add in the whole Tarzan theory, because they actually had a brother who was born without wings, and so he's the third perspective of the story. I don't know, it's kind of fun. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be like, you know, the type of book you'd get published and wow, become a bestseller. It's just kind of a fun story that I wrote for me and my friends and whoever else might want to read it, I guess. I don't know. I haven't gotten to publish anything quite yet, and I don't put my writing up on sites beyond just my friends because that's where I am at this point. But it's a pretty fun story nonetheless, and I really enjoy writing it. So yeah, I'm just kind of lining everything right now. Ugh, teeth. I don't know. I didn't look at a real wolf skull. I just kind of do my improv teeth, and I hope it works because, well, for your sake and for mine. So yeah, you can just see me adding those little feather features that the Rishi have. It's very nice. I think I've gotten a lot better at texturing and indicating where fur is, which is something that I probably was not as skilled at in the past. I don't know, you're just kind of getting a snippet into how I like to draw now. It's kind of difficult because I'm very on and off YouTube, and then when I come back, it's like, whoa, her art's very different, or a lot nicer, I hope. I hope you think it's nicer. I try. Alright, so I pulled up these reference pictures to color them, and I usually don't color with the whole using the select tool, inverting, filling in. I'm a paint bucket user, and I know people are always annoyed by the white little dots, but you know what? It gets the job done. It's not too hard. You just have to make a contrasting color layer, and then you can fill all the little dots in. So, like this. So, I usually pick a color that's not on the character at all, and is usually at a different value than the most of the character, and then that allows me to see the little dots more easily so I can fill them in. So if you still like to use Paint Bucket, or maybe you're getting tired of the select tool, trying this is another way to get your fills in perfect. I don't know, I've just discovered that this is the best way to make sure you don't miss any of the little holes when you're using the Paint Bucket. And my Paint Bucket is actually set to expand by 1 pixel, so that makes it a little bit less. Now here I took some photos, or I don't know, I like to work with my art on the actual canvas, rather my references on the canvas rather than having them up in the reference corner. Usually I use that for some color selection. But I took a look at the Aurora Borealis, and I kind of copied those colors, those marks. It's very striated and streaky. And then after that, I did some effects layering. So I messed with blur, I messed with add, and I kept overlaying them until I got an effect I was really satisfied with. And honestly, I think this is probably the coolest part of the whole illustration. Just this Aurora Borealis captured really wonderfully. It feels magical. After that, I started working on the night stars again. I like to use the blur tool a lot to soften the shapes of the particles that I put down for the stars. Now, I usually don't work a lot on my backgrounds, but for some reason, this picture, it needed a really nice background. Like, I was ready to pour my heart and soul into this background. That's why I actually removed the characters, so that way I could adjust how I shaded them in accordance to the background, and I add a few particles just to give that sparkly snow texture. A lot of purples and blues are used to shade the snow because I think that's how you're supposed to shade snow. At least I remember there is some sort of art book or something that I looked at, and those were the colors that were shading the snow, so I assume that is the case. I decided to make the mountain range another shade of purple too. It's a bit more desaturated, but that was where I was going, and I used my oil brush, which is not a brush that comes default with Fire Alpaca. It's a custom brush that I learned how to make using some website post. I think it was probably a DeviantArt post or something, and basically you just take the normal pen brush, or turn it into a watercolor, or no, I don't know. There's instructions somewhere, so if any of you guys are curious, just ask me, and I can probably comment the settings. So in order to create a depth of field, I use the blur effect to my advantage. And I think, well, it also, like, cleans up some of the sharp, not so perfectly done edges. It also, again, creates a depth of field. And it was really interesting because when you think of paintings and backgrounds, you think, oh, the artist must have painted out every single detail. But that's not really the case. If you look up close at a lot of different landscape paintings, you'll notice that there's a lot of blotches and blobs, and it's mostly your brain filling in the space where the detail isn't there. And, some people will actually take the time to carve out every single detail. But I think the beauty of, like, making a nice background is to give the idea of that detail, but not die while trying to make it, I guess. Like, implied setting. I have no idea what I'm saying. Now I'm in art school. Well, not actual art school. I'm not going to an art college. I'm just going to a normal college taking art. Although I'm thinking of moving. We'll update you whenever that happens, I guess. So I'm just kind of building up the different elements of the trees. I had a lot of fun doing that. I create textures just by using the different my different strokes, and I looked at some actual pine trees to kind of get the texture of the bark correct, because I am not an artist who paints bark all day, so it was a good reference to have, good to understand how pine trees work. Now, these background trees are not as detailed as I said, but again, they're gonna get blurred, and they're gonna build into the world, and they're not the focus. I mean, it's a really nice little composition with this one deciduous tree in between these two evergreens, but they are not the focus of this story. I also accommodated for the light coming from the Aurora Borealis. That's actually why I put it down first, so that way I could use that as my beacon while I crafted the rest of the scene. I know I don't always follow the rules of, like, remember how shading works when I'm drawing a character in a blank space. It's a reference. I don't care if the shading is logical. I just shade however I feel like shading. But when it's a scene, I like to have that light source present from the beginning, just so I can actually use my brain and shade things correctly. Yeah, so here is me shading the snow in a bunch of various layers, just slowly working and building up the trees. I don't think I've actually worked so long on a setting before, at least in my recent memory. There are a lot of elements in this, but I think it really pays off for the final image. I was really satisfied. Here are some fun little bushes. They don't have to be the most magically detailed bushes in the world. I'm just adding them for some more foliage, because usually where there are trees, there are probably some underbrush, so bushes it is. The tree up close, I had to take a little bit more care into making detailed. Adding that snow again, the sparkle again. It's a pretty rinse and repeat process, I'd say. Just a lot of using the different brushes. I tend to use my oil brush just because it's a nice in-between between a harsh brush and an airbrush, and I think it gives the best look to my art. Alright, now time to shade the characters in accommodation with the light source. I'm trying to create a fur texture as best I can through how I shade. Obviously, I can't, I could. I don't get every single nook and cranny, but it doesn't matter too much, because sometimes the light kind of reflects back on the object. I don't know. Light works in mysterious ways, and while you can calculate it in a computer and use a 3D program for that, I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, maybe if you actually wanted to film something similar or sculpt something similar to that lighting, but I don't know, it's not for me. So just using a combination of the airbrush and the oil brush seems to be getting that shading to look really nice. And something you might note is I tend to shade the eyes last, and you might be wondering, Why is that? Well, honestly, shading the eyes of a character, at least in my art style, is very pleasing because it looks really cool. They look like they're glowing a little bit. And the reason why I do the eyes last is it's kind of my reward for shading the rest of the character. That way I don't just stop at the eyes and I'm actually motivated. Now, looking at the reference, you can kind of see that Katie's design is definitely not animator friendly. I don't know why. I was like, yes, this design, this is what my character must look like when it's so complicated and a little annoying to color. But you know what? She's not being animated anytime soon, and if she has to, I guess I'll figure out how to simplify it so I don't lose my mind. But for a painting, whatever. You can be complicated as long as you're willing to sit and do all that complicated painting work. But yeah, her fur coat, I don't even know if any creature with fur has this, but it's kind of a modeled pattern. Maybe it takes more after some sort of bird. Can't think of any birds with that modeling off of the top of my head. I mostly look at chickens these days, so it's very hard to say. I'm just, yeah. Honestly, I was really happy that I actually decided to redo them. They look so much more expressive, and, well, Katie's paw isn't up. At least it doesn't look kind of broken-y bent in that weird way it was before. And, you know what? It's all about the moment with this piece. We're not focusing on movement, we're focusing on a moment. So, in the story, which this picture takes place, the sisters have been very busy with their different jobs. Ciara's been practicing fighting, Katie's just been doing normal wolf hunting. They finally get this moment where they can hang out with each other again, and it's really nice because when they were little, they were always dreaming, I want to play in the snow, because they were stuck in the den when winter came, and by the time they got out, it was spring, so they never got to experience snow. So this was a very special moment for them where they finally got to go out into the snow together just like they promised each other. It's a really nice scene, and I think translating the original photo to this nighttime atmosphere just enhanced the Aurora Borealis idea. If you look really carefully, you can actually see that that one pine tree is in the same place that it was in the original drawing. Guess that's a little bit of an homage, huh? In order to blend the characters more into the world, I made sure that they had snow that was on their paws, so it felt like they were actually existing in the space. And of course, you know, if they came all this way, they probably left a trail of paw prints. So quickly roughing those out. They don't have to be 100% paw prints, they just need to be serviceable paw prints. And I felt this part of the background was a little bare, so quickly shoved in some random trees to blur out. These guys aren't even like given a trunk, they're just kind of lumpy. But you know what? They look like background noise, and that's the point. After I finish my drawing, I like to take, snow. So what I do with the snow is I sandwich them between different layers, and I make the snow particles different sizes. So that creates kind of a depth aspect. I do this with all sorts of weather effects like rain, snow. This just makes the whole drawing feel like it's part of a world. And as I was saying, again, I overlay everything with one color in add mode, and that gives it that kind of bloom effect. I'm really proud of this piece. It's probably one of my favorite pieces I've done. So, yeah. There they are. Here's the sisters enjoying their first snow. It's a brilliant night. The world is untouched, fresh, crisp, cold. Thank you guys for watching.